In this video, you're going to see a drawing by myself, Lacey Swift, of my life model, Amanda. This was drawn from life here at School of Real Estate in Overland Park, Kansas. This was a 40-minute pose, which was broken into two separate 20-minute sessions. You can see the finished drawing over on the right, and I started by sketching the head and the shoulders. I really liked the portrait in this pose and I wanted to make sure and capture it, but I wasn't exactly sure how much I would be able to include. Sometimes I find I bite off more than I can chew. I try to draw the whole figure and I run out of time and I end up not having any single area in the drawing up to the level that I would really like. So that is why I decided to start just doing the upper half of the body. I didn't go directly for the portrait because I did want to make sure that the figure is in proportion to the head. So even if I just had the chest and the arm and the head without the rest of the figure, I would be happy with that, but I did want it to be in proportion. If I go and I commit to the location of the eyes, nose, and mouth, and then I draw the figure and I find out that the head is too small in comparison to the body, or vice versa, I'm going to be really unhappy that I need to make a lot of changes. So that's why I start that way. And before getting facial features, I block in major shapes and shadows. Having everything divided into a light half and shadow half helps me to better see the proportion. Once I had the overall feeling of what was and was not facing the light side, I started to mark in the approximate locations of the facial features. Notice that at this point, I am not exactly outlining. I am not committing to an outline on the top side of the nose, and I am not committing to specific locations of the eyeballs or other features. Instead, I'm trying to put in some landmarks, like where I see dark areas in the eye sockets, where I see a shadow underneath the nose, and where I see creases beside the mouth or the bottom of the upper lip, which is often shaded. If I can create the feeling of the overall eye socket and the overall shift between the upward and downward planes as you go along the front of the face, then I feel like I can get the proportion and later add those details. Something that's very important in this pose is the feeling that we can see a little bit the underneath of the jaw. So I wanted to make sure and get that in. And then I felt more comfortable to commit to specific marks in the facial features. Sometimes it's amazing how just a small mark can begin to make the face come to life. When it comes to portraits, I like to keep it relatively minimal, especially at this scale, so that I don't end up with lines that are too wide and throw off the proportion of the face. Something else that I really liked about this pose is the way the hair wraps around the side of the face and tucks under the jaw. It's just a really elegant swoop to the whole thing. So that's why I'm going toward that next. I wanted to give the impression of individual locks, so I paid a lot of attention to the shapes that I saw at the ends of the hair. I didn't include a lot of texture all the way through the hair up until the top, and I wanted to make sure and keep them a little bit combined with shading. Sometimes we don't understand how important the placement of the ear is for a likeness, but having the ear the wrong size or in the wrong location can really change the entirety of a way a person looks. So always make sure to pay very close attention to that in a drawing where you are getting a portrait. To give a little bit more roundness to the face, I'm focusing on pushing that core shadow a little bit darker. The core shadow is the area of the form shadow that is adjacent to the light. And having a little bit more darkness here helps give the impression of a reflected light in the shadow. In this instance, the reflected light would basically be along the front of the face. I'm trying to be very careful and gradual as I build up these values on the face so that I don't overdo it. Since I'm not taking the time to shade in the background, I do like to use outlines to emphasize certain areas and create a little more separation with the paper. Now I'm moving on to the second 20-minute pose of the entire 40-minute pose. Since I'm relatively happy with the face and the gesture of the whole thing, I am moving on to pushing those core shadows in the arm and getting more shading in the chest. Even in the figure, I am building things up gradually and not going straight away to the darkest dark. Very slowly, I'm trying to add forms for the hands and the legs, being careful to keep everything as much in proportion and related to the upper half of the torso as possible. Again, I am blocking in the shadow shapes. So here you can see that the shadows are being outlined and they will all be gently filled in before any additional details are added. If you'd like to learn more about how to create figure drawings like these, you might want to check out my Patreon account, which is patreon.com/School of Realist Art. There you will find tutorials specifically for figure drawing, starting at as little as $10 per month. In addition to the tutorials, there are tons of figure drawing references that you can use to create your own figure drawings at home. Now I want to note that right here, you're going to see me make an adjustment to the proportion. I'm making the hip on the bottom a bit wider. I like to mention this whenever I notice this and I'm doing a voiceover because I think it's really important for us to understand that it is completely normal to change your mind. We're usually giving ourselves a lot of crap as artists, and we tend to think that we're just not very good every time that we see we've made a mistake and need to correct it. But I want to assure you that every professional artist that I have ever watched demonstrate and that I have ever watched in a video have all made mistakes and then corrected them. It's really just part of the process. The best artists are ones who are really, really good at correcting themselves. So the next time that you're doing some figure drawing, Try not to worry too much about what it looks like in the moment, but keep yourself focused on what you're noticing about the figure. This is going to help you to create a better and more realistic drawing. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you would like some tutorials on figure drawing, check out patreon.com/School of Realist Art. But if you'd prefer an entire figure drawing course, go to figuredrawingacademy.com. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.